teacher for 23 years. He has taught middle and high school math at Arapahoe High School, and he's currently Director of Technology there in Centennial, Colorado. Many of you may know him from his Did You Know video, originally meant to spark conversation with teachers at Arapahoe High School in 2008. The video gained fast popularity and became viral. His work in the area of technology integration has been a catalyst for change in many educators and students. His vision has proven him to be a true systems thinker. He invites you to join him at on the online conversation at Fishbowl. So please join me in welcoming Karl Fisch.
All right, we're going to see. Oh, that works. See if everything works here. Oh, that's better. Hi. Just to be clear here, we have a hashtag for today's activities. So if you're on Twitter, then this is what you're going to want to use. If you think I say something witty and brilliant, if you think I say something stupid, then please use a different hashtag. I want to start with my biases. I think it's really important we all have them, right? It's really clear that you know up front what my biases are. First one's kind of important. I was born in Ann Arbor. So this was a good football year, the first time in, I don't know, decades. But I moved from Ann Arbor when I was 9 to Lexington, Kentucky. So at the moment it's looking to be a good basketball year as well. But unfortunately, when I grew up, I moved to Colorado. Yeah, we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on that slide. So, getting a little bit more serious, I do have some biases. First bias is I don't think teachers are perfect. I think that we have a lot to learn and we can get a lot better. Having said that, I also want to be clear that I have a gentle suggestion for some of our leaders that perhaps blaming teachers is not the way to go, and that instead of seeing us as part of the problem, maybe you should see us as part of the solution. So that's one of my biases. Okay, Russ, if they clap, then I'm really going over. Okay, usually that doesn't happen. And I apologize, I'm a pacer. It's a little tennis match thing here. So the second bias is I really think students are the center of what we do, and that sounds kind of trite. But I think it's important because I really think, for me personally, my bias is that school should be designed to meet the individual needs of our students as much as possible. And I think that if we do that well, if we truly meet the individual needs of our students, then we'll meet the needs of society. So that's my focus. And some people will disagree with that. Some people see schools more as being needed society. I really focus on the students first, just so we're clear on that. And this is personal to me. This is my daughter, Abby. She's 11 and a half. She's a 6th grader. And I want this to be personal to you. So throughout today's activities, when whoever's talking is talking about students, I don't want you to think about a generic student. I want you to think about your Abby. Okay, if you have young kids, think about one of them. If you have young grandkids, think about one of them. Nieces, nephews. If you don't have any kids in your family, then think about somebody else's kids. But pick one kid, okay, as opposed to, it's really easy when you're just talking about students to make decisions that maybe aren't the best. When you personalize it, it becomes personal to you, and it's much easier to picture everything we're talking about in terms of a student. That means a lot to you. So, as Paige mentioned, I'm the Director of Technology at Arapahoe High School. Basically means I'm responsible for all the stuff that plugs in. If it plugs in, I'm supposed to know how to set it up and how to keep it running. The more important part of my job is helping teachers and students use the technology, hopefully to teach and learn more effectively. Now, keep in mind, I was a math teacher, and my sole qualification to be Director of Technology is I walked by one of these and I wasn't frightened. This was in the maybe early 1990s, and we have some younger folks in the audience, the student speakers there, who have no idea what this is. So let me tell you, this is a computer. Really, it's a computer. This is a Macintosh SE. Came with a blazing fast 8 megahertz processor. Came with a whopping 1 megabyte of RAM. And it came standard with, wait for it, standard with dual 800K floppy drives. All for the low, low price of $2,900. But wait, just $1,000 more, so for $3,900 you get this newfangled thing called an internal hard drive. 20 megabytes, more than you would ever need. Of course, now we have this, which holds 400 times as much as that internal hard drive and 10,000 times as much as those floppies. It costs about $15. Actually, I think young folks have seen these. We just deploy them a little bit differently now. So, as part of my work as technology director, we were doing some staff development around 21st century learning, 21st century skills, 21st century. You can put anything after 21st century, it sounds good, so we did it. And you know, we were having these great conversations, really good conversations, teachers talking with teachers. And as part of that, I developed this presentation that's mentioned a couple times. You may know this shit guys. Don't worry, I'm not showing it today. If for some reason you've been spared seeing it and you want to see it, you can go to that address and learn more. Do you ever want to know about it? But I developed this presentation to start a conversation among my faculty. And then something kind of interesting happened next. So bear with me as I tell this story. I posted it to my blog. I have a blog that I developed for staff development purposes. And I posted there kind of for 3 reasons. First was as a place to continue the conversation after the faculty meeting, which I showed it. Second, several teachers wanted to show it at home to their spouses. It was an easy place for them to download it. And third, I knew that a couple of people had stumbled across the blog, and I thought maybe 1 or 2 of them might be a good idea to be shown. And I might have underestimated that just a tad. Because what happened next was really interesting. Some more prominent education bloggers picked up on it. If you're not into blogging, you may be surprised to find out that there are prominent education bloggers. But there are. These are folks like David Morlick and Will Richardson and Bud Hunt, who have much wider audiences than I did. My blog basically was the teachers in my staff development who were forced to read my blog, and my mom. And so these are people who actually have real readers, and suddenly I'm getting phone calls and emails and comments from literally around the world saying, hey, this is great, can we use it? You know, what are your sources? And that kind of stuff. And that happened throughout the fall of 2006. And you know, by winter break, I was kind of estimating, just based on the context I had, that maybe 50,000 educators had seen that PowerPoint that I created for my staff on Winter 50. That was a wild guess. I had no hard numbers, but that was just a guess. And that was kind of cool, but also a little daunting because you can get away with things, you know, with your own staff, you can't get away with people who don't know you. And so I might have, you know, checked my grammar a little more carefully, things like that. But okay, that's good. Things finally slowed down, and I thought, great, I'd go back to my day job. Then in January, Scott McLeod, who was a professor at the University of Minnesota, he's now at University of Kentucky, he contacted me and said, hey, I've been using this with my graduate school classes for school administrators. Would you mind if I remixed it and posted it to my blog? I said, sure, go ahead. There are lots of remixes out there. That's what it's for. And so he posted it to his blog. The difference was I just posted it as that scintillating technology PowerPoint. He had posted it not as a PowerPoint, but as several video formats, Flash, QuickTime, Windows Media Player. And within a day or 2 of him posting it to his blog, somebody somewhere downloaded it and re-uploaded it to YouTube. And somebody else downloaded it and re-uploaded it to Bloomberg.com, another popular file sharing site. And somebody else downloaded it and re-uploaded it to IamBored.com. I don't recommend you go there. It makes you worry about the future of civilization. However, lots of our middle and high school students think the site's pretty fun. And then somebody else started sending this email, right? You've got these emails that get forwarded and forwarded and forwarded. Well, this time this email was getting forwarded and forwarded and forwarded was a link to the Windows Media version that Scott had put on his website. And in fact, about 2 or 3 months later, somebody forwarded it to me and said, hey, have you seen this? It's really good. It's all right. Now, the point of this, there's a point, trust me, I'm getting there, is that these online sites track how many people view it. So instead of just guessing, you know, I'm a math teacher, I can do addition, so you know, I try to cut track of the top 4 or 5 sites I knew about. And so currently, best guess is somewhere more than 40 million people. That's probably a conservative guess, because that doesn't count, you know, times it's been shown to audiences large and small, times it's been downloaded, times my mom's watched it, it doesn't count all that. So probably more than that, but be conservative 40 plus million times around the world. Including this one. I'll give you a second to read that so I can put some more. So if I am bored, makes you worry about the future of civilization, this should too. If you are national defense or watches my PowerPoint in a presumably important meeting, we're in trouble. So, point of this, yeah, there is a point. The point is that a simple little PowerPoint created by a math teacher in Centennial, Colorado can start more than 40 million conversations around the world. And we live in a fundamentally different world than the one you and I grew up in. Fundamentally different. And if you buy that, that's a conversation in and of itself, but if you buy that, then maybe, just maybe, school should look a little bit different than it did when we were growing up. Because here's the problem. Here's what the model our current schools are based on. Our current schools were designed in the 1920s based on ideas from the 1890s, smack dab in the middle of the Industrial Revolution. Okay, schools are assembly lines. Okay, we move kids through in a certain amount of time, we perform the same processes on them, and then they're perfectly prepared to graduate and go to work in industrial age America. A couple problems with that model. First of all, we don't have industrial age America anymore, and second of all, kids aren't widgets. They're different. Anybody who's met more than one kid knows this. So, and I'm not suggesting that schools are this bleak, okay? Schools are better than this, but still, if we have a model, if we have a system that we put good people into, and the system is fundamentally flawed, then typically the system wins. So I think we need to look at some changes. So I also want to be clear, I'm not up here to deliver answers. Too often I sit out there in various staff development, and whoever's up here has all the answers. Whatever problem you have, they've got the answers. I don't have the answers, sorry, so if you want to leave now, go ahead. What I think I have is some pretty decent questions that we need to explore together. We do not have nearly enough time this morning to do this. So the most important part of today's conversation is after I get done talking, and you guys talk about these issues. So my hope is that sometime in the next 25 or 30 minutes, I say at least one thing that's worthwhile, and then therefore you can continue the conversation. So, first question I have is, what does it mean to be literate in the 21st century? I honestly don't think we know the answer to that question. At least I don't feel like I have a good handle on that. When I was growing up, being literate basically meant being able to read at about the 8th and 9th grade level. Now, we've done a ton of work in literacy in the last 25 or 30 years. It's not just reading, it's writing, it's critical thinking, and it's artistic literacy, and mathematical literacy, and scientific literacy, and lots of things. We are much better at it than we were when I was going to school. But I still don't think we have a really good feel for what this means in 2011. Because reading and analyzing these is very, very different than reading and analyzing these. And this is the world our kids live and learn and will work in. Now, hear me clearly, I'm not saying books are bad. To Kill a Mockingbird is still one of my favorite books of all time. Perhaps I stopped maturing in 9th grade, I don't know. But still important. I'm not saying we get rid of books. But we also need to make sure they understand how to deal with these media. And you need to be literate in these new forms of media in a lot different ways than we ever had to deal with when we